I never thought my past as a Navy SEAL would matter in a quiet suburban neighborhood. But one afternoon, it all came crashing back in the worst way imaginable. 3 fake cops in tactical vests stormed onto my property, pretending to enforce HOA rules. And one of them made the biggest mistake of his life. He slapped my wife, Sarah. By the end of that day, their faces looked nothing like they did when they showed up. Before we get into it, comment what country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story goes. It all started earlier that morning when Sarah went outside to water the garden. She noticed a black SUV circling our block 3 times before parking across the street. 3 guys stepped out wearing dark tactical vests with shiny police patches. At first glance, they looked official, but Sarah spotted the problems immediately. Cheap nylon belts, plastic holsters, and not a single radio. No real officer shows up without communication gear. The tallest one walked straight toward our yard. "Ma'am, HOA compliance inspection," he barked, flashing a badge so fake it could have come from a toy aisle. Sarah asked calmly, "Since when does the HOA hire police officers?" The second guy smirked. "We're not hired, lady. We are the law here." Sarah told them to leave immediately, reminding them they were trespassing. Instead, the third guy stepped closer, resting his hand on a fake baton. When Sarah pulled out her phone to record them, he slapped it out of her hand, and then slapped her across the face. That's when I came outside. I'd been in the garage organizing old gear when I heard her yell. I saw her holding her cheek, these clowns puffing out their chests like they own the place. Everything in me flipped from neighborly to combat mode. I walked right up to them. "You boys picked the wrong house. You've got 5 seconds to explain who sent you." The tall one smirked. "The HOA president said you've been ignoring notices. We're here to make sure you comply." He tried to stare me down, but I've dealt with warlords and mercenaries. A suburban poser in a knockoff vest doesn't even register. I told Sarah to go inside and lock the door. She didn't argue. She knew what was coming. I stepped closer. "Touch my wife again, and you won't walk out of here." They laughed, but I could see their confidence crack when I demanded identification. They refused. Real officers must identify themselves. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just trespassing. This was felony-level impersonation. And right there in broad daylight, I decided I wasn't letting this slide. I didn't throw a punch yet, but I shifted my stance into combat posture. They must have felt the change, because their laughter faded. The leader jabbed a finger at me. "You think you can ignore HOA rules? We've warned you about your truck, your fence, and your military dogs. We're here to enforce compliance." I let out a low laugh. "First of all," I said, voice sharp, "I park legally. My fence is within code. And those dogs are ADA protected service animals." I stepped in, forcing him backward. "Second, you're trespassing and impersonating officers. That's 10 years in prison. If you're lucky." The short one tried to act tough. "You can't threaten us. We'll cuff you right now." He fumbled with the Velcro on his cheap belt and pulled out toy-grade cuffs that wouldn't restrain a teenager. That was it. My patience was gone. I moved fast. My left hand twisted his wrist until he dropped the cuffs, and my right elbow cracked him across the jaw. He hit the grass like a dropped sandbag. The second guy lunged with his baton. I sidestepped, caught his arm mid-swing, and flipped him over my shoulder. He hit the concrete hard enough that the neighbors fell silent. The leader froze. "You're assaulting officers," he shouted. I stepped close enough for him to feel my breath. "No, I'm stopping 3 criminals from assaulting my wife." Just then, Sarah came back out, phone recording this time. "Already called the sheriff," she yelled. "They're on the way." The leader cursed and tried to run for the SUV. I grabbed the back of his vest, yanked him down, and pinned him to the hood. He struggled, but he had no training, just attitude. By the time real deputies arrived, 2 fakes were rolling on the ground groaning, and the third was face down on the SUV with my knee in his back. The deputies rushed in, guns drawn. "Hands where we can see them!" I raised mine, stepped back, and Sarah pointed at the 3 men. "They hit me. They pretended to be cops." Deputies ripped off their fake gear, cuffed them properly, and within minutes the truth came out. The leader cracked first, admitting the HOA president had paid them to teach us a lesson. This wasn't harassment. This was conspiracy. If you're enjoying this story so far, hit like and subscribe, because it only gets crazier. At the sheriff's station, the 3 imposters looked pathetic. Their fake uniforms were bagged as evidence, and their story fell apart under questioning. They admitted the HOA president, Karen Ellis, hired them to scare us into compliance. So when deputies asked if I wanted to press charges, I didn't hesitate. Absolutely. But Karen wasn't done. By the end of the day, she actually filed a lawsuit against me, claiming I used excessive force and damaged the HOA's reputation. She even tried to say her hired thugs were security contractors. My attorney nearly laughed reading it. "This is a gift," he said. "We'll countersue for harassment, assault, and conspiracy. And you've got video evidence." Court day came fast. Karen sat there smug in her blazer. Sarah held my hand, calm and steady. Our attorney was ready to dismantle everything. The judge asked the HOA's lawyer to present first. Their case was pure lies, and collapsed the second Sarah's video played on the courtroom screen. There it was. Sarah being slapped. Fake badges. The assault in broad daylight. Everything. The judge leaned back, unimpressed. "These men are criminals. And you, Mrs. Ellis, hired them. Your lawsuit is dismissed. And I'm sanctioning you for abusing the legal system." Our attorney stood. "Your Honor, we're filing a counterclaim for conspiracy, emotional distress, and HOA harassment." Karen's face went pale. Her confidence evaporated. By the time the gavel hit, the judge had dismissed her case, sanctioned her, and held her personally liable for damages. HOA board members wouldn't even look at her as they left. Her little empire of intimidation collapsed in seconds. As for the 3 imposters, they were held without bail, facing multiple felonies. After court, the sheriff shook my hand. "Good thing you kept your cool," he said. "Most people would have frozen. You probably saved your wife from something far worse." I nodded and pulled Sarah close. Karen thought she could control us with fear. Instead, she lost everything.